Alright, response video to a couple of phantasmagorical videos. To be serious, kind of trashed transhumanism and told us all to go read some works of fiction. Yep, we'll find the truth there. You know, the warnings, you know, scary, brave new worlds. Yeah, well, great. You know, I offer you the same challenge, though. Give me the science fiction scenario. Give me the future. Give me your description of how you take things like technology and human nature and smash them together and create a world that is practical in that future without extensive use of technology. Because if we don't go there, human beings are going to remain miserable, depressed, greedy fuckers. And that's not survivable, in my opinion. We can see we're on the brink of catastrophe as it is. You know, we have systems in place that are just useless to us. They're all about the worst of human nature, not the best of human nature, and what good human nature there is. It's really, and there isn't any good. It's all an intellectual game. It's finding a way to plan and organize our existence around the fact that what we are, acknowledging what we are and figuring out a way to keep the animals happy, create a proper zoo environment, and that's really all the best we can hope for. Human nature is shit. It is about consumption and reproduction. That's the nature of the beast, and unless we can make humans about something else, unless they do expand their intelligence, we're just doomed. The only way out of this is all the way forward or all the way back, but half measures either way aren't going to work. And I'd say going all the way back is just plain pointless. Only a person who sees accomplishment in the very nature of the existence of life forms on Earth could see any victory in that. I personally don't see any value in you know, glorifying that parasitic, maggot-littered world out there, that nature thing. And so on to Matt. He says he was misunderstood. I don't think so, Matt. We got it. Again, you even said it. You said, you know, science is about practical knowledge. What was the practical knowledge gleaned from Darwin? Come on, it wasn't about practical knowledge. It was about knowledge, period. Practical or impractical. It was about defining the truth. And you keep playing these damn word games. And what natural, you know, now we have to be categorized, and there's this thing called natural philosophy. And it's just the same kind of, you apply these distinctions, these standards, these obligations to fit into these archaic molds of what people are and how they think, and it really is, you're just so glued to this old bullshit, and you accuse other people of having 150-year-old, you've got a 4,000-year-old idea of how the world works. All philosophy is science, and all science is philosophy in a way. There is no, it's an arbitrary distinction. The distinction between physics and biology and chemistry, they're arbitrary. Human beings invented those arbitrary, those borders. They don't mean anything in a real sense. They don't have any real, the borders aren't made of anything real. They're just a convenience that human beings have used as they've chaotically built their perceptions of the universe. And this really is about perspective. It's about describing, defining, obtaining a perspective, an understanding. You want to call that natural philosophy? Why don't we just call it understanding, defining? That's what we're in the business of doing as a brain, is defining things. And what you want to try to do is avoid definitions that are made of crap. And so subjective and objective are important words. These are important distinctions. Subjective, we can define subjective as things like, I love my parents, or I love kitty cats, or I think that's cute, or I think that's pretty, or that feels good. Things that are very personal, things that are defined by our personal character, our personal sensibilities, our personal conditioning. And we can define objective as statements of truth, like water is wet, or some other statement defining a reality that doesn't have anything to do with a personal perspective, our personal sensibilities, our personal conditioning. And it's important distinctions. And if we're going to glean our knowledge, we want to glean from the best source. And we know from objectively, we know that where our origins are. We know what created us, and we know that we are psychologically built to find things desirable and attractive and to want and all that crap, and that's subjective shit. And you want to define reality based on those subjective perceptions. You're saying a scientist is being too narrow in his perspective if he doesn't sit there and embrace, not understand, not recognize, but embrace human subjectivity as part of his science. And that's just nonsense. All he has to do is understand where it is, where it came from. He doesn't have to sit there and embrace it and say it makes sense, because it doesn't. The fact that you find a dog a more pleasant pet than a pig is completely meaningless as information. It doesn't mean dogs are better than pigs. It merely means that subjectively you find one more satisfying, and by a completely conditioned and irrelevant standard. So fuck that bullshit. And we also know what's corrupted science, and that's capitalism. Alright? Scientists for themselves are not on some evil mission. Alright? But when this tool, this useful information, gets in the hands of people who can make money off of it, they will. And that's the corruption that exists. If it's not science itself that is the criminal, it's not knowledge itself that's the criminal, it's this system we have accepted that will define value, and sometimes value is going to be let's make money and screw who it hurts. And that's the ethic that exists out there. And religion's the other, just destroys perspective. It just says, okay, we're going to accept a book of dogma, and that's going to be our perspective. And you've essentially done the same thing. You've accepted the old religious dogma that nature was created for a purpose, or that has a rational mission, a sensible mission, and an embraceable mission, and that you will protect it and defend it against the perception that we need to do better than that we have to do better. And your defense is just as silly as the religious folks defending their pearly gates and their ruby-encrusted paradises where they can't even describe what the hell you do there. So I challenge you, go ahead, describe me this future. Describe me this world you say we don't have enough information about. We can't even imagine. We can't. Well, you've got to be able to define something, some kind. You've got to give it some sort of character, some sort of meaning. What do you think human beings will be doing 500 years from now? What's your ideal world? Mushrooms every day? Is that it? We'll just silly Cybin ourselves into oblivion and an enjoyable world, and you'll call that something more dignified than virtual reality or transhumanism? So anyway, it's you're just demeaning science for the sake of demeaning it, because it doesn't satisfy you, because the truth isn't pretty enough, it isn't cute enough. And that's all this comes down to. All this anti-crap from you nitpickers and you naysayers, that's all it comes down to. You want a more attractive truth. Okay, you're forcing the truth to compete on some kind of American Idol silly show and say it must be this, it must satisfy my populist needs. Okay, it's not about the truth, it's about what I feel about the truth. And that's just a pile of shit.